Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It is Wednesday night, Gridiron Grinder time nonetheless. I am Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 171 of Gridiron Grinder. For tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week, kind of a short week because we just did the last show on Friday. Then we're going to give you guys our Week 16 power rankings and game picks. Oh my gosh, it's almost over. Bumming me out. And then we'll close things off with our question of the week. And so, yeah, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Oh, and hey, for question of the week, I'll put it out there right now so you have some time to think about it. I didn't do a ton of research. I just want to talk about Sam Laporta and TJ Hawkinson, the former Lion from Iowa and the new Lion from Iowa, and who you think is better, and some stuff like that. So, just to plant that seed for you. So, yeah.
All right, as we go, I'll start pondering that. I'll probably have to do some quick research while you discuss it later,
Yeah.
but
While I'm babbling, you'll look up some stats or whatever, and we'll come up with some stuff to talk about. But yeah, I mean, hey, why don't you in the meantime, take that ball and run with it, do some name that stadium for us, James.
so unfortunately I didn't see any takers for last week, even though I gave it away.
Yes.
Multiple times told people where I was, so it's either they're not paying attention or they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it actually
But
makes while you're doing that, I want to see I want to see where our views are at, man, because they've been weak. They've been weak.
Yeah. So every week I'm traveling around, going to different stadiums that host NFL games, generally tie it into something. I think I have a duplicate this week. I realized it too late, but hey, that's okay. And so last week, first person guesses it right. We'll give you an extra special shout out, bookmark it, show off to all your friends. Last week I was in Buffalo for another dud of a fucking game that I pick.
Shit,
Um,
last week's video got 40 views already. That's actually
Holy
pretty good.
shit.
You know, considering some of like fucking week 9 is only at 19 views. It's all right. It's all good.
But yeah, I thought it was a Dallas Buffalo game was going to be a good game. Yeah, I was wrong about that. Um,
Yeah,
so
Dallas just sucks on the road, man. They're phenomenal at home, but
mhm.
they suck on the road, dude. It's so weird how it works that way for them.
Yeah, I don't like Dallas as it is, and I don't like Prescott. And going into the game, I thought he was one of the clear front runners for MVP. I thought he took a step back based on the performance.
Yeah.
But you also have to consider it was raining, I believe, in Buffalo during the game, so it was kind of shit
Okay.
weather.
Yeah, I didn't see all that. I just kind of saw the box score and some of the highlights. But okay, yeah, the rain can definitely be a factor. Yeah, and I mean, and the thing is, it's both sides of the ball for them, right? They go on the road, their defense sucks, and their offense sucks. They're at home, their defense is phenomenal, and their offense is phenomenal.
Yeah, I I don't know what to think about them. Honestly, they you pick them to win, you pick them to do good. You think they're going to do good, and they fucking blow.
No, they got to
Um,
get home field or they're fucked in the playoffs.
yeah, I was actually looking at um, earlier. I was looking at the odds for or the chance, like based on whatever, based on the possible outcomes for the season. Um, and it was like 88% chance that whatchamacallit, San Francisco gets the number one seed.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So yeah, so it's like went through chances of making the playoffs and like the AFC, Baltimore 100%, Kansas City greater than 99%, Miami 99%, Cleveland 89, Jacksonville 77, Buffalo 64, blah blah blah. And then for like the number one seed in the AFC, based on all the outcomes and who would like all the possible permutations of how the season could end. Baltimore has a 63% chance at the number one seed, while Miami has 20 and 15. Interestingly, Miami has an equal percent chance at the number one seed and the number two seed. And then Kansas
Okay.
City for two's like 47. And then you get down to the NFC, and it's like San Francisco, Philadelphia, Dallas have 100% chance of making the playoffs. Detroit has greater than 99% chance. So San Francisco has an 88% chance of getting the number one seed. And then the other ones are Philadelphia at 8, Dallas at 2, Detroit at 2,
Okay.
Tampa Bay, Seattle, Los Angeles, Minnesota, New Orleans, and Green Bay. It lists less than 1%. But the interesting thing about it is the chance to make the Super Bowl, 6% for Detroit.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucking high being a Lions fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything above zero is high, right? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
never been there before.
Yeah, never been there before, but it's San Francisco leads the way, obviously, at 60%.
Okay.
And then but the AFC is pretty wide open, where Baltimore has the highest percent chance of making the Super Bowl at 38%.
Gotcha.
It's like 38, and then Kansas City, Miami have 22. The interesting part is Jacksonville has a less percent chance of making the playoffs than Cleveland, but a higher chance of making the Super Bowl. And the same with Baltimore. Baltimore has the fourth highest, even though they have like the fifth highest, sixth highest. They only have a 64% chance of making the playoffs, but an 11% chance of making the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. Funny how it works, man.
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird that they have such a high chance at making the Super Bowl. But I mean, that's because they generally play good in the playoffs as it is.
Yeah. It's a tight team, disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, do you want to segue over, do a little bit of recap of the past week?
Yeah, I thought we just naturally segued over and
Oh, you
talking
thought we
about.
were already in it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we kind of were. I guess we were running a tangent. We just didn't formally call it. And I've only got a few things from the past week here since we did the show on Friday. And so I'll just hit them real quick and then you can add in whatever you want. But I saw DeMonte Kazee, the Pittsburgh Steelers safety, has been suspended for the remainder of the season, which they are saying will include the playoffs if Pittsburgh gets in the playoffs. And that's related to a hit he made on Indianapolis wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. I did not see it. Did you?
I did not see it either.
I mean, it had to be pretty shady or something for the team to suspend him. Like, I mean, I guess there's only a couple games left, but still, right? I mean, he must have done, I don't know, like defenseless receiver something to get suspended by the team.
I I didn't even see that he was suspended. So
Okay. Yeah, and I mean,
so
hey, with them sort of like spiraling out of control, you'd think they would want all the help they can get right now, but they're still going to hold that line, and then geez, the other one I saw for Pittsburgh, which I didn't even write this down, but I guess George Pickens um, failed to make a block, which could have allowed Jalen Warren to score a touchdown. I guess he eventually ended up scoring a couple plays later.
hmm
But when asked why he didn't make the block, he said he didn't want to get hurt. And then he went on a rant about how all these people, like the reporters and stuff, they don't play football, so they don't understand that, you know, receivers that block, have a high chance of getting hurt. And that's what happened with Tank Dell in Houston. And he didn't want the same thing happening to him. And I thought, man, that's got to like make Tomlin's blood boil because, you look at older Pittsburgh Steelers, and like the one that comes to my mind is Hines Ward. That dude was like a big time blocker as a wide receiver. Uh, the last time I checked, football is a tough sport, and you need to be a tough player, man.
Hmm.
And injuries happen, right? You don't ever want to get hurt or have somebody else get hurt, but it just seems like you need to be contributing to help your team win in whatever way reasonably possible. And I don't know that being asked to make a block as a wide receiver is unreasonable. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Oh, I just found the video of the hit,
Is it
and
brutal?
it's so he was suspended by the league. Pittman was diving for the ball to catch the ball, and Kazee came in and just like went helmet to helmet on him.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's
So,
dangerous, man.
so the letter the league sent to Kazee was, with 8:49 remaining in the second quarter, you were involved in a play that the league considers a serious violation of the playing rules. The video of the play shows that you delivered a forcible blow to the head neck area of Colts receiver Michael Pittman Jr., who was in a defenseless posture. You had an unobstructed path to your opponent, and the illegal contact could have been avoided. Your actions were flagrant, and as a result, you were disqualified from the game. When players violate the rules intended to protect player safety, blah blah blah, when the violations carry with them a significant risk of injury to the opposing player, is appropriate to impose substantially greater penalties.
Okay.
So, but it's fairly brutal. I'll send you the link. It's towards the
Cool.
bottom of the page.
Okay.
Um, but it's one of those where like just watching it kind of made me cringe.
I got you. Um, all right. So, in other news, James, this one I thought was interesting. Baker Mayfield somehow had a perfect passer rating against the Packers. But what is more interesting about it is that apparently he is the first opposing quarterback at Lambeau to have a perfect passer rating. I did not expect that. I would have thought that like somewhere down the line somebody would have done it. Turns out it was Baker Mayfield's first and only perfect passer rating. It was the first and only opponent to do it at Lambeau, man.
Yeah, whatever. Baker Mayfield still sucks.
Well, hey, I'm just reporting the news. Him sucking or not is your opinion, right? So,
This is true. It is my opinion, but my opinion is accurate, so
yeah,
we can move
there,
on.
yeah, there may be empirical evidence, right, at this point. So, yeah.
Empirical, yes.
And then in other quarterback news, Lions backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater has announced that he plans on retiring at the end of the season. And so, for him, the guy was never really like ever a consistent quality starter, but he did have a pretty solid career as a backup, a
Well,
journeyman
to
kind of
to be
thing.
to be fair, he was a consistent starter. Then he fucked his leg up
Yeah,
fairly
I was
hard
gonna say that in
in
Minnesota. Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it was a short-lived kind of run as a starter, right? It was like what, one season or something, and he got hurt, and then, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
was
I'd
like
have to
one
look
or
back at
two.
it, but but either way, I mean, hey, I thought it was impressive that he came back from that injury,
Hmm.
and he bounced around for a long time, and he's hanging him up now, and good for him. I think for the Lions, a lot of it is going to be riding out Goff on that last year of his contract next year and trying to see what we've got in Hendon Hooker. And
Hmm.
so Bridgewater was really just going to be a backup for this year while Hooker got the redshirt year anyhow. But either way, man, hey, hopefully he is, off to greener pastures and enjoys whatever's next, man.
No, I mean, props to him for coming back from the injury and sticking around in the league as long as he did, even though it was as a backup. Like, I mean, he was talented, and I thought before the injury, from what I remember, I have to look it up, but from what I remember, he was on his way to a fairly good start to his career.
Yeah, I know the year he got hurt, he was playing really well. And I remember, I think it was like Mike Zimmer back then was the coach or whatever. he was like super pumped about Bridgewater, and then
Hmm.
it just all got derailed.
Yeah, so it was 2 years. He took over in end of or a couple games into 2014. 2014 he had like 3,000 yards passing, 14 TDs, 12 interceptions, and then 15 he had 3,200 yards, still only 14 TDs. But I mean, back 14, 15, that Minnesota was straight up a running offense.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Adrian Peterson era.
Yeah, and then 2017 he played one game for not even a full game. He played two passing attempts.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah. So, hey, his time is coming to an end. Yeah. And then I did see the Baltimore rookie running back, Keaton Mitchell. Looks like he's going to be out for the year with a knee injury that he suffered in that Jacksonville game. And it seemed like in recent weeks, man, he was starting to get a lot of hype that
mhm.
they were really liking what they were getting out of that guy. And kind of a bummer that his season's going to be coming to an end here, especially because, Baltimore's likely to be making some kind of a playoff run. But, um, you know, that's the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah, it sucks. I'm trying to remember. There was like some like rumblings that the hit on him was a little cheap.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing it, but
Yeah, I didn't see it.
like I remembered something after the game, something about it being like a little bit of a cheap shot. But I mean, it sucks, especially at the running back position where it's so with there being so many of them, it's
Yeah.
hard to get your foothold, and especially in Baltimore, like that's what like their third running back this year to have a knee injury.
Oh, yeah. They just been having a bad rash of luck at that position for sure.
Yeah, like J.K. Dobbins fucking had a knee injury last year and re-injured the same knee this year. Or
Hmm.
yeah, it was he tore his ACL last year. I think he did something to the same knee again, or like first game of this season, second game of the season, real early.
All right, man, that's all I had for the news. So if you got a few things or whatever to add, I'd say let's hit them. Otherwise, we'll do our surprise games of the week.
Taking a glance, like he's not going to be playing, but Rodgers was officially activated by the Jets.
Yeah.
Um, there was something. I think you hit everything else.
Okay. Well, give me your surprise games, man.
All right, surprise games of the week. I know one of them that people are going to assume is one of my surprise games of the week, but as you remember, I predicted it last week, so I can't call it a surprise game of the week, which was the was Seattle over Philly.
Yeah, that was a nice pick, man.
Kind of looking at it,
I mean, that Las Vegas putting up 63 was a surprise.
yeah, that was a surprise, especially after being shut out the week before. I mean, fuck, they lost 3-0 to Minnesota, and then they come out and put up 63, a franchise record. But we kind of already hit that last
Yeah,
Friday
we
'cause
did. We did talk a little bit about it. Well, all right. What about Carolina getting the win over Atlanta, man? That surprised me.
yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise. Like, I mean, it is a division game, and I have to get back to the right page. Yes, I still do notes on paper.
Hey, do your thing, man. I'm not sweating you.
So, I mean, so I had it. My model had Atlanta 17 and Carolina 9. Hey, my model predicted the Panthers score exactly, but the Falcons, like there's just something wrong with them.
Yeah, they're just not getting it going offensively.
Exactly, they're not getting it going offensively. Like, and which is weird because they have so much talent. Like they have
Yeah.
they have a lot of talent on the offense. They don't have a quarterback, but they can't even get the running game going,
I
which
know. Yeah,
is
you'd think they would be able to run it, and that would take so much pressure off of that passing game, and it's just not working at all for them.
yeah. Outside of that game, the only other real surprise game, and it's not really the the who won the game as much because it was kind of a toss up who would win the game because both teams are talented, but it's how much, and we kind of hit on it, the Bills over the Cowboys, how bad the Cowboys lost and how bad the Cowboys looked in that game.
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
shit. But I did talk about it at the beginning of the last week when we did our picks. Like the way to beat the Cowboys for the Bills was to run the ball, and they obviously watched the show and
Oh
they
yeah,
obviously
James.
listened to me.
Yeah.
James Cook had a fucking 179 yards rushing.
Of
Like,
course they watched the show, James. They were one of the 40. Okay.
yeah, they said, "Wow, man, this James guy, he really knows what he's talking about." He dug into the stats,
Yeah.
saw how bad the Cowboys' rush defense really was, and how good their pass defense is, and let's go with that game plan instead of fucking Josh Allen throwing the ball. Like
Yeah.
I tried to, I meant to look up the stats. Josh Allen had fucking 94 passing yards,
Yeah, I think
and
Sean McDermott was digging deep. He was like,
yeah.
"Man, I need some help. I'm looking up Gridiron Grinder. They're going to give me my plan to get in the playoffs."
Yeah, fucking 266 rushing yards for Buffalo.
Yeah, that was a nice night, man. Yeah, and I mean, you've talked about it for a few years that they got to start doing more of that because,
Yeah,
Josh Allen being the be all end all, it means that at some point he's going to get shut down and they got nothing else to lean on. So,
yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that they fucking finally did. Like it's a year and a half too late. Like fuck, I think I had James Cook on my fantasy team last year
yeah, hoping
for
for that breakout.
well no, because I thought he was like the answer. Like you need to get the running game going, and I thought they would try to get the running game going, but no, they took what took way too long. Like I mean, I've been saying it for 3 years. They need to get the running game going. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
Josh Allen isn't the answer at to rush the ball. Which the stat I liked was he only had 8 total rushes in the game, which is a recipe for victory for Buffalo.
yeah, yeah. Keep them healthy. Play complementary football.
Yeah,
Um,
like kind of outside of that, like I didn't have much for surprise games
okay. Yeah, I didn't
last
really
week.
see anything else. Well, let's shift gears here, man. Why don't you kick off our power rankings? Give me your 1 through 5.
So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna based on where wins and losses happen. There's not really that much movement in my power rankings this
Yeah.
week. Like I had Baltimore at 1, they won, they stay at 1. San Francisco at 2, they stay at 2. The weird so when I looked at it, like with the Seattle game, it's with it being in Seattle and it being such a close game. I actually put Philly up 1 spot, even though they lost. It's
Okay.
a rare bump off a loss, but I just think Philly is that good of a team, and even though they just lost 2 in a row, like they went through a brutal fucking stretch,
You're right.
and I mean they had Dallas, Buffalo,
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco, Seattle. These are all playoff teams. Dallas twice. I mean, all playoff teams, and to come out of it with what were they 3-2 in that 5 game stretch? Like that's I think that's pretty good. So they got a 1 spot bump, but also with Dallas losing, the way they did to Buffalo,
Yeah, you spanked him a little.
I spanked them a little bit, but it's also because that's what I saw on the field. Like, but anyway, so Philadelphia got a 1 spot bump. Detroit off the win with against Denver got a 1 spot bump up, and Miami, even though they only beat the Jets, they got a spot bump to 5. That's basically because Dallas got dropped down. I didn't think Buffalo was quite there to get into the top 5 based on lack of consistency with them and kind of the factors that went about the game. I think the loss was more of a Dallas issue than a Buffalo getting it together.
Sure. Yeah, I got you. And yeah, Buffalo's sitting at 8-6, and so it's still kind of hard to put them in the top 5. I've got them like hanging right there, but it's yeah, I think that their season has been dicey. The talent's still there. They've had some injuries. The coaching's been a little off, but yeah. And so, yeah, for me, at 1, I've got San Francisco. They didn't move. 2, I've got Baltimore. I bumped them up 2 spots. 3, I've got Dallas. I dropped them down 1. We've talked a lot about that. Good at home, horrible on the road. 4, I got Philly. I dropped them just 1 spot. I am keeping a close eye on them. I know they had a tough stretch, but they've had a lot of adversity this year in general with 2 new coordinators, and things just have not been clicking. Earlier in the year when they got to 10 wins, uh, it felt almost a little deceiving because there were a few games where it just seems like
Hmm.
they snuck by, right? And now that they've lost a few, I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, is there something more going on with this team? But they're still stacked, tons of talent, great coaching, and so we'll see what happens with them. But then, yeah, at 5, I've got Buffalo. I wanted to show them a little bit of love here because I think Dallas is a good team. And then part of this move also is that I've got Miami next at 6. And after I went back and looked, I was like, okay, well, Buffalo did beat Miami, right? And so,
Hmm.
so I wanted to make that adjustment between those 2 teams, even though, you get to a certain point in the season and those things are almost a little bit irrelevant. But to me, it was close enough to do the adjustment.
Yeah. So I have Buffalo at 6 behind Miami. I looked at that and I considered the win, Buffalo beating Miami, and they did smoke them, but it was so long ago
Yeah,
that
and
it's kind
Miami's
of
got 10 wins, man, right?
yeah,
So you put something on that too, right?
exactly, and it's so much in the rearview mirror. But I still moved Buffalo up 1 spot off the win against Dallas. Um, and then Seattle at 7. They moved up 1 spot with the win against Philly, and then Dallas dropped down 5 spots to number 8. Um, so part of my thing with Dallas is if you can't win on the road, like I mean, it's kind of dicey being in the top 10. You have to be able to,
Yeah.
you have to be at least some semblance of the team you are at home when you're on the road. They're kind of lucky that they didn't drop out of the top 10 off that look, especially like this is like the third poor road performance for Dallas this year. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
there are
they've got
two
issues.
two of them were against good teams, but it's like they didn't show up for those games.
Yep.
And so it's great you can beat up on the teams in your division, and you can beat up on the teams that have 4 wins except for Arizona, which you lost to. But you can't even show up for a game against one of the good teams. Um,
Well, and they're still one of the highest, or I think they are the highest penalized team. That's
mhm,
another problem for them, right?
yeah, and and that's the last, basically kind of the last of the movement on my board for a long time.
Yeah.
I have Cincinnati at 9. They beat Minnesota, but like
In
almost all the
overtime,
team
right?
in overtime, almost all the teams ahead of them uh, won, with the exception of Dallas and Philadelphia, or Dallas and Philadelphia. So there wasn't any real movement there. And from what I remember, like the ebb and flow of that game, it was like Cincinnati
Oh, they
showed
came
up,
back like right at the end, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
showed up at the last fucking minute to win the game. Yeah, it was like uh,
Yeah, and I don't know what happened with Minnesota, but I thought they were in a position to kick a field goal in overtime, and so something must have happened. I was like, I
yeah,
don't
I
know.
thought. That's true. I thought so too.
So I
So
don't know
they
if they
had
missed it or what happened, but it worked out for
so
Cincy.
no, they were 4th and 1 at Cincinnati's 42.
Oh yeah, so that's pretty long for a field goal.
It would have been it would have been a 59 yarder, and so they
Yeah,
went
yeah,
for it.
Minnesota's got a good kicker too, but yeah, that I mean it's far though. So they tried
Yeah,
going for it and they missed it.
they tried going for it, didn't get it, and then 6 plays later, Cincinnati kicked the field goal. So, but yeah, they they were right there. I think it's long enough to where it's a toss up whether or not you kick the field goal or not, because if you're on the 42-yard line and you kick a field goal and you miss it, you're giving Cincinnati the ball at the basically at the 50,
Yeah,
like
good field
at the
position. Yeah.
40 on their 49-yard line. Like it's not you it's really good field position. Maybe you maybe should have punted and made them drive the whole field to kick the field goal, but I mean, hindsight's 2020. It looked like um, it was a terrible play call for my opinion. They went back to back quarterback or Nick Mullins rush up the middle. I think they tried to do what is it, the brotherly shove or the tush push or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you want to call it. If I remember correctly, they tried to do two back to back and didn't get shit.
Yeah, nobody's having success with that except for Philly, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
team gets it here and there, but a team gets it here and there like teams have historically. It's not
Hmm.
all the time, but it's a little bit. Philly gets it like 99% of the time.
Hmm.
They're a rare breed with that, man.
And then rounding out the top 10, I have Kansas City at 10. Yeah, they won. They beat New England. It was at New England, but like we talked about it. Kansas City's really inconsistent. They had they now have even less wide receivers because that was the piece of the news that we forgot that Sky Moore was put on IR
Oh shit, I
this
didn't even
week.
see that. Okay.
So I forget what the injury was. I think it was a knee, but he went on IR this week after that game. So that was that's even worse for Kansas City.
I don't know. Maybe somebody will come out of the woodwork that can actually catch the ball.
So they had like fucking what the fuck's his name? He was starting to
I know the rookie Rashi Rice has been looking really good.
Rishi Rice was starting to
He's
come into
coming
his
on,
own,
yeah.
but like this is their third wide receiver on IR. One of them's no name, but Miko Hardman's on IR. Sky Moore's now on IR. So it has to be. It's like basically Kadarius Toney and Rasheed Rice, who Rice has been doing fairly well as of
Yeah.
recently, and Kadarius Toney, well, we got a yeah, it was a knee injury for Moore. We got he's got
Tony's
to
got
learn
a
how.
ton of potential, but he never gets there.
Exactly. He's got a ton of potential, never gets there, and he has to learn how to line up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so back to you
Sure.
with number 6.
Yeah. So six, I got the Dolphins. I dropped them down one. Kind of already talked about it. Um, you know, after that, I'm similar to you. Not a lot of movement on my board, and I think part of it is you get this late in the year and you start to feel pretty convicted about where everybody's at, and so some weeks there's just going to be things like this. And so at eight, I've got I mean, at seven, I've got the Browns. Eight, I've got the Lions. Nine, I've got the Jaguars. And 10, I've got the Chiefs. Some of these guys won, some of them lost. It just was, to me, real hard to shake it up here. I probably could have tweaked one here or there, but I kind of like the order. And so I kept it the way it was, man.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same for me from like 11 to 15, where I have Houston still at 11, Tennessee at 12. I had Houston at 11, Tennessee at 12 last week. The game went. I mean, it was a close game. I didn't feel that it was appropriate to drop Tennessee off of losing to Houston, who I had right above them, and
Sure.
they lost a close game. 13, I have Cleveland. Yeah, they won, but they beat Chicago. Yippee. Um, 14, I have Minnesota. It's kind of they lost to Cincinnati, but
By a hair.
it's by a hair. Maybe a coaching decision here or there. Like the team played really well. It was a close game. Cincinnati just had the luck of having a shorter field goal chance. Then 15, I have the Rams. Yeah, they won. It was a close game, and it was Washington, who I have way the fuck down. So didn't really want to bump them much off of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you've kind of talked about all these teams, so I don't need to go too deep in it. But yeah, at 11, I've got the Bengals. 12, I've got the Seahawks. 13, I've got the Texans. 14, I've got the Rams. And 15, I've got Denver. I will say, the one thing is, I love Vrabel, and I know that you got Tennessee up there high, but man, it just bothers me the 5-9 record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got Tennessee way lower, and part of it is just that I think for as much as I like Vrabel, I kind of gave up on these guys a long time ago, just kind of seeing the record just not going to be there this year, right?
Right. And that's the thing though, like with Tennessee, like I've been looking to drop them, but the board hasn't really fallen in a way where it made sense to give them a big drop. And I was high on them coming into the season because Vrabel, they always outperformed. They were right there in the playoff mix last year. Basically the same team, but
Well, there's a lot of shitty teams at the bottom. Like, oh yeah, they should be able to beat the Giants, and they should be able to, beat these teams, right? So,
yeah. So I've been looking to smoke them down like you did, but it's just the board hasn't fallen that way to where it would make sense.
I got
And
you.
I might just have to go outside of what the board's doing and do it because I've been trying to for like 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean we're close to the end of the year, man. Don't let me sway you. It's your board. I just was just calling it out because that's one of the few teams you and I got a pretty big discrepancy on. That's all.
Yeah, no, I know it's just I didn't take the opportunity to smoke them when I did, and I haven't been able to really
Yeah,
smoke them
it's
much
usually the other way,
since.
right? I'm like a little
Yeah,
bit slower to kill a team, and this is the other way around. So,
ex
uh,
exactly.
all right, man, give me 16 through 20.
All right, 16, I have Jacksonville. Yeah, they got their asses kicked, but they got their asses kicked by my number one team, so I didn't drop them. Then 17, I have Indianapolis. Yeah, they had a dominant win against Pittsburgh, who will get to them, I don't know, in like 15 spots. Then the New Orleans at 18, still at 18, they beat the Giants. Whoopity fucking do. 19, this is kind of one of the bigger moves in this for the rest of my board where I moved Tampa Bay up 2 spots from beating Green Bay. Yeah, I know. I've I've been really down on Tampa Bay and I've been really slow to move them. And it just how the board fell, it made sense to jump them because Arizona at 20, Tampa Bay's better than Arizona. Tampa Bay's better than a lot of my teams I have next, and plus I dropped Denver down out of the 18 spot of the lack of showing up in Detroit. So
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, out of the 19th spot for the lack of showing up in Detroit. So that's my 15 or 16 through 20. How about yours? Fairly
Uh,
similar.
yeah, so at 16, I've got the Colts. 17, I've got the Vikings. 18, I've got the Raiders. I did move them up one spot. I wanted to try and do something for that massive 63 point, game they had. And then at 19, I've got the Buccaneers. I did bump them up one spot. 20, I've got the Chargers. I moved them down two. Um, yeah, I guess this is another one where you and I are kind of a little bit off on, and it's, you know, I need to smoke the Chargers, right? Way
Hmm.
more than I have. And especially, you look at Herbert's out for the year now. There's like no reason for me to keep him this high anymore. So keeping him at 20 was generous. And we'll see where it goes next week, man. But yeah, back to you at 21.
21, I kind of talked about it. Denver, they didn't show up against Detroit. Dropped them 2 spots. Vegas, I moved them up one spot off smoking the Chargers. I had the Chargers so much lower than Vegas that more than a one spot bump didn't make sense off that win. I think, looking back at it, I think me smoking the Chargers last week kind of
Took care of it.
swayed. Well, it was swayed by Vegas, or beating the shit out of them. And Vegas has been really inconsistent this year. So I mean, are they a top 20 team? I don't think they are. 23, I have Atlanta. I only dropped them one spot off the loss to Carolina. If it was a non-division team, I may have dropped them more, but it was a division matchup. Yeah, it was a close game. Their offense hasn't shown up at all this season, but when you look at the next teams I have, is Atlanta better than the Giants? I think so. Giants stayed at 24, who lost to New Orleans. Are they better than Chicago? I think so. So even though Chicago lost to Cleveland, I have Chicago at 25. They stayed at 25 because basically all in this range from Atlanta down, all but one team lost
except for one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So at 21, I got the Saints. I moved them up 2 spots. 22, I've got the Packers. I kept them where they were at. 23, I got the Falcons. I dropped them 1. And then 24 and 25, I've got the Titans and the Cardinals. They didn't move. And so, yeah, a little bit of movement here, but this is also now the next chunk all the way down, pretty much gridlocked it on my board. Similar kind of like what you're showing, where you got like almost all these guys losing. So it's hard to make a move when everybody in sync just sucks. So
yeah, and like I don't. It is one loss better or worse than another loss? Is like in this range, it's not a game I wanted to play.
No. So yeah, I guess run me through it, man.
I'm just gonna run to 32 because that's when we'll get actually some 31, 32 is where there's the next movement on my board.
Sure.
26, the Jets. They lost. They were 26. They stay the same because also Washington lost to the Rams. I considered moving Washington up because it was a close loss to the Rams, but I chose not to because I think that there's a lot to be desired with Washington. And every time I start Sam Howell, because I had to pick him up as my like third or fourth quarterback this year because everybody else gets fucking hurt. Every time I start him, he sucks. I put him on the bench. I don't even fucking know. Whoever I start sucks. Whoever I put on the bench fucking does good. I'm still in the semifinals in our league, which I'll take. Even also starting out 0-4 and making the semifinals, I'll take it. 28, Green Bay, they lost to Tampa Bay. I gave Tampa Bay a bump. I didn't move Green Bay because all the other teams behind them lost. 29, Chargers, same thing. Even though they fucking got their asses kicked, I don't think they're worse than New England. In fact, I think they beat New England, so which is 30. My 30 is New England. Carolina, they moved up one spot with beating Atlanta because Pittsburgh got their shit pushed in against Indianapolis, who dropped down to 32. And Pittsburgh is just in disarray. And they have what, like 4 wins, 5 wins?
No, Pittsburgh's at 7-7, man.
They're at 7-7? Holy shit.
I know, happen? dude. They snuck a bunch of wins in early in the year, and now they've just like kind of like their true colors are really starting to show, right?
Yeah, like I look at Pittsburgh as like a 4 or 5 win team, even though they're 7-7. Like they're just they're in complete disarray right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, things I've been hearing is like there's no discipline in that locker room at all. And I think, unfortunately, Tomlin's going to end up getting fired.
I've heard some rumors of that, man, and it blows my mind because he's been one of the most, steady coaches in like a long, long, long time, right?
Yeah,
So
and to fire him off of what is more than likely going to be his first season in his career without a
yeah, less
500
than
or better
500.
record is like it's I think it's bullshit, but I think there's a lot of disarray there, and it's the disarray that's there. I think it's been there for a while. It
Yeah,
just it was glossed over, or it was it was overlooked because of the fact that they were consistently had a 500 or better record. They still have a 500 record this year, but so far, but it's just I think it's they're kind of
yeah.
like, okay, this
It's
team
it's a 500 record, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're so bad, man!" And
yeah,
it's just
exactly.
it's like a miracle that they've got a 500 record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. I mean,
I
they're one of these
completely
teams.
agree.
They're one of these teams that they just need a fucking quarterback, man. Right? I mean, send them Kirk Cousins, and they'll be
See, I
right back
think
in the
Pickens, I think
playoffs.
Pickens is a good quarterback, but he got hurt. And I think he's a good quarterback. I think I commented earlier in the year to you. I think it was text that Pickett to Pickens
Yeah, the
connection.
combo.
That combo is going to be fucking sweet in like 2 years. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah,
It's just it's not quite there yet. And plus they fired their offensive coordinator in the middle of the season. The offense is going to sputter when you're trying to change it
yeah,
fucking
on the
what
fly,
on the fly, what, like 10, what was it, week 13, week
something
13
like
or
that. Something like that.
14 they
Yeah, yeah.
fired Canada, even though they should have fired him like 2 years ago, I've been saying. But
Yeah. So they got issues, but yeah, it's still kind of wild seeing them in the dumpster fire. But I get it. You're putting the screws to them, and yeah. So for me, man, I've got Chicago 26, Pittsburgh 27. I've got the Giants 28, the Jets 29. Then I've got Washington, New England, and Carolina. And so Carolina, it's just tough, man. It's like they got the win, right? But they're still only 2-12, and so it's like, as the saying goes, every now and then, even a blind squirrel gets a nut. But it's just not enough to bump them on the board when they're sitting at 2 wins, man.
yeah, and speaking of Carolina, which is more speaking of Chicago, that article I referenced earlier also had the percent chance of getting the number one pick.
Okay.
And as you remember, Chicago has Carolina's number one pick
Oh yeah.
this year. So Chicago has an 82% chance of having the number one overall pick, or Carolina's pick at number one. New England at 13, Arizona at 4, all others at 1%.
Okay.
So I see what you're saying with Carolina. I every once in a while I want to give somebody who won a little bit of props, so they got a one spot
No,
jump.
hey, that's all good, man. That's all good. Well, yeah, I mean, hey, that's that's all I got on the power ranking part of it. If you want to take the lead here for our game picks, man, whenever you're ready, I say give it a rip.
All right, so last week you and I had one of our better weeks we've had in a while. I did notice when you sent me the spreadsheet you hadn't filled in one score, so
Oh
it
yeah, thanks for
it
filling that
it
in.
didn't
Yeah.
give me the one extra
No, yeah,
um,
you want to
win.
take them all if you can get them, right? So,
Yeah, so I got 10 right, you got 11 right. Unfortunately, that puts me at 120 correct this season, and you at 135 correct. I'm at 54%. You're at 61%.
yeah, I'm still barely hanging there above 60, man.
Yeah, I want to see if it's around. Oh no, it's 60.5. So it is a rounded 61. Me, I think uh about the same. 53.8 really. But
Yeah.
so
Well, you're gonna have some homework in the off season to hone that model for next year.
yeah, I gotta hone the model. I didn't have time to figure out one of the games on my model because it was not giving me anything that was um appropriate. I'll get to that in a minute. First up, we have the Saints at the Rams. Actually, this game, I was reading earlier, and let me see if I can find it real quick. Is actually, ironically, I thought another game would be game of the week, but this game's like has the biggest implications for the playoffs of any
Okay.
game this week. It's like, I can't find it. Why did I closed the tab
So
on
you're
it?
saying we're actually going to have a good Thursday night game?
Yeah, I'm surprised, but see if I can. I'll try to find it when you're talking about it. But
Sure.
it's like a for each team a win. It's like a 50% or more swing between chances of making the playoffs between a win and a loss for each team. I want to say with the win, each team has an 80% chance of making the playoffs, and with a loss, it's like 17 for New Orleans and 22 for the Rams.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll give you my breakdown while you're doing your digging there. And so for me, in this game, it's in Los Angeles, which I think is important to point out for these kind of high implication games. Um, I've got the Rams winning this one, and my model has it by a half a point. And here's the thing: Los Angeles with like Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams, they have overperformed my model. Okay, and offensively, they have the potential to put up some points. New Orleans, on the other hand, they have underperformed my model. And so
Hmm.
even though I'm looking at a half a point for the Rams, I think it can be a much bigger victory for them. I just see a lot of disappointment with the Saints. And I mean, this could be like the dagger for them just to like, hey, this just is like, uh, however you want to say it, like characteristic of this season, right? They just keep underwhelming and disappointing, and the Rams knocking them off or making it almost impossible for them to get in the playoffs would just kind of be, you know, the little cherry on top for that, I think.
So I lost it. I don't even know where the fuck.
That's all right, man.
Maybe it
Ain't
was
no
in the.
thing but a chicken wing.
Here it is. Okay, so currently, right now, the Saints have a 43% chance of making the playoffs, where the Rams have a 54% chance. If they win, the Saints jump to 71% chance of making the playoffs. And again, if they win, the Rams jump to a 78%. And then if they lose, I was right. I had the teams reversed. It's if chance of making a playoff with a loss for the Saints, it's 25%, and for the Rams, it's 17%.
Okay. So yeah, the Rams really need it. I mean, they both really need it, basically.
Yeah,
So
they both really need it, um, but the Rams need it more, I guess, based on chance to win the playoffs, but also based on this is on an ESPN article based on their football power index. The Rams have a 60% chance of winning the game, where the Saints have a 40% chance of winning the game. Ironically, based on ESPN, there's not a chance for a tie in this game, which I think
okay.
is weird. When I modeled it out, I had a 9 point victory for the Rams. Um, I I couldn't make a case for basically what I'm resorting to now is if my model predicts one thing, which is the same thing as you, I try to make a case for the opposite team
Yeah, because
and
it's
see if I
crunch
can
time.
pick the opposite team. And I couldn't make a case for the Saints to win the game. I think that the Saints have been have been fairly disappointing this year. I did have the Saints as a playoff team. I had them at 10-6. That's obviously going to be wrong. I'm sorry, 10-7. It's obviously going to be wrong. They'll be lucky to be above 500. They I Their car, they should have blown it up and rebuilt, and they tried to put a fucking band-aid on a gunshot wound, and that's not fucking possible. Now, Rams win the game. I think the Rams win the game by more than the 9 points that my model predicts.
Yeah.
So I'm on the Rams. Next up, we have the Bengals at the Steelers. This is one where my model was close enough on it, and it had the Bengals winning. Look, we talked about the Steelers. Even though the Bengals are playing their backup quarterback, the Steelers are in complete disarray right now. The Steelers are going to be lucky to get one win, let alone 2 wins the rest of the season to complete the streak for Tomlin of 500 or better record. Again, even though my model has it at 21-20 Cincinnati, I tried to make a case for Pittsburgh when I did my picks, and I couldn't. Unfortunately, I think there was only like 2 teams or 3 teams that I could make a case for and go opposite you. On it, I'm on Cincinnati. I think Pittsburgh, the 7 wins doesn't represent how the team has performed this year, and I think they continue their losing ways.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I'm taking Cincinnati, and a lot of it is really based on Browning just playing a lot better than I think anybody would have expected for the guy kind of coming out of nowhere. And my model actually has Pittsburgh winning, but part of that is because the game is in Pittsburgh, so it hits my home field advantage factor. And then also Browning in my model is at the 67, the lowest rating, which if I put him at something reasonable to reflect his play in these recent weeks since he's been starting, it would bump it and move it over into the favor of Cincinnati. And so, I'm just kind of like from the hip making those adjustments as we go. And yeah, I'm just going to keep riding the Browning train, man. It's been working.
Mm-hmm. Then next up, we have the Colts at the Falcons. This is actually one where I overrode my model. I don't think my model accurately reflects who the Falcons have been the last 3-4 weeks. It came up with a 24-23 victory for the Falcons. Look, I'm in the fantasy semifinals. I actually didn't check to see if my waiver claim was successful or not, but I picked up Gardner Minshew.
Nice.
I put in a waiver claim for Gardner Minshew. I'm trying to ride Gardner Minshew to the fantasy championship this year. Indianapolis is playing so much better than Atlanta right now, so I'm on the Colts, even though with your pick.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's tough. We're coming down to the end here, and there's not a lot of opportunity for you to kind of get out of the hole, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm taking Indy, and I sent you a message I think about this where with exception to that Rams game early on, it seems like this is the week of away teams in
Mm-hmm.
my model, and so. Or at least with my picks, and some of that's like manually adjusting the model to reflect it. But yeah, I'm taking Indianapolis here. These guys, they have, like you said, you've got Minshew mania. He's been playing admirably. Jonathan Taylor's been out, but it doesn't matter. Zach Moss has been good on the ground. That defense, oh, no Shaq Leonard, no big deal. They just keep getting it done, man. And I didn't expect any of that when you looked at how bad they were last year and just, all the things going on. Expected to have a rookie quarterback, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm going to keep going with the Colts, man. The Falcons, they're the opposite. Their narrative sucks. They've been struggling, tons of talent, and they just can't gel. So it's an easy pick for me.
Then we have the Green Bay Packers at the Carolina Panthers. Um, Again, my model picked this as a 16-10 victory for Green Bay. I think that that's generous. That Green Bay only scores 16 points. I've mentioned this before. When whoever I don't start at quarterback in fantasy has a fucking awesome game. I'm probably I would, as long as the Minshew waiver was successful, I'm probably going to roll with Minshew as my quarterback. And let me see. Was it? It was successful. So I'm rolling with Gardner Minshew as my
Wow,
fantasy quarterback
Minshew.
over Jordan Love, which means Jordan Love is going to have a fucking awesome game, and Green Bay is going to beat the shit out of Carolina. Even worse, there's nothing good about the Carolina offense
No.
this year. I mean, I think what like was 9 points like the most they scored this year in a
It's so
game.
bad. It's so
It's
bad.
it's their offense is putrid. And actually, I am going to look that up while you talk. But I
Yeah.
think they might have gotten double digits twice this year.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to find out, like, at least from this era, how close are they to like one of the lowest scoring teams? Like, I'm sure if you go back to like the 50s, 60s, whatever, you're probably going to get some low scoring teams when it was, 2 yards in a cloud of dust every play, whatever. But, since we've been in this pass first era, man, it's rare to see a team like just not get points at all like that, man.
Actually, interestingly enough, they've scored double seven. This was the first time, nine was the lowest points they've had in the game this year. I'm
All
sorry,
right,
no,
so it's
six. They
deceiving.
had six.
So it's
They had
deceiving.
six. They had six against the Saints, and then they had nine against the Falcons. So, this past week they scored the most they scored was 27 against Seattle. They scored 24 against the Lions and 21 against the Dolphins. They scored 18 against the Bucks and 17 against the Saints in the first game. So I mean they've been in double digits pretty much every
Yeah,
game but the
maybe it's
last
not
two. So
as bad as
it,
yeah.
it's not as bad as we you would think.
I mean,
So they
it's still not great, right? But it's not as horrible as we've been painting it out to be.
so they're what 14 games they've scored 206 points. So that's what like 12 a game. That's
My brain's not
almost
working for
15.
math.
They're averaging almost 15 points a game. So
Okay.
that's not as bad as we
It's low,
thought.
but it's not dire.
Yeah, they're not even the lowest scoring team this year.
What?
They're not even the lowest scoring team
Who's the
this year.
lowest scoring team?
Um, the Patriots.
Oh shit. See, that's where it's hard to believe because it's a Belichick team, but yeah, they've been horrible, man.
Yeah, the Patriots have scored 186 points this year. The Giants have scored 189 points this year,
Yeah, and I mean
and
they've had
then
injuries and stuff, right? But still.
Carolina at 206. Well, the Giants, that 189 is kind of deceiving because it's basically like
All
a
DeVito.
third of it, basically almost a third of it is 3 games, for
Okay.
2 games. They scored 31 against the Commanders 4 weeks ago. They scored 31 against the Cardinals in week 2. So that's 62. So I mean 3 times 62 is 186. So that's like a third of the points right there.
Yeah.
And then they scored 24 against the Packers. So it's deceiving. 189 is deceiving because without those 3 games, they haven't scored shit.
Really low, yeah. Those are the outliers.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, I mean, back to Carolina, Green Bay. I'm taking the Packers. This one, yeah, Green Bay's been streaky, but they clearly have a higher ceiling. The game is in Green Bay. Oh, wait. Is this one in Green Bay? No,
Mm-mm.
it's in Carolina. So, yeah, that's right, because this is the week of all the away teams. Um, when I look at my heat map, and this is one of the things I like to make my decisions on, is that the heat map is entirely green for Green Bay, with exception to my rating for the defensive coordinators, which I give just a little bump to Carolina. But, I mean, when it's only one category out of like 12 or whatever, it's hard to get the win there. And so I'm taking the Packers here, man.
All right. Then we have Cleveland at Houston. The only argument for Houston to win the game is if Stroud is clears the concussion protocol and plays. Yeah, they won this past week without Stroud, but I think Cleveland's defense is
Yeah.
the caliber where they need Stroud to win. My model has it as a close game. If Stroud was playing, or if Stroud is playing, I'm gonna say this: if Stroud is playing on Sunday, I'm gonna switch my pick to Houston. But without Stroud, I'm gonna stick with my model and pick Cleveland.
Hey, that's fine, man. I would stick with Cleveland either way on my side, and so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I think that Cleveland, um, like you said, the defense is just at a different level, and I think even with Stroud coming back potentially, that's a hard game to ask a rookie to get. He's been amazing, but he's still a rookie, and so I try to keep that in mind. Similar going to the heat map here, it's kind of like the Green Bay thing where Cleveland in my heat map is all green except for their running game, which I give the edge to Houston, and so it's hard to go against that. So yeah, I got to take the Browns here, man.
All right. Next up is one where I could make an argument the other way. It's the Lions at the Vikings. It's a divisional game. My model has a 24-23 victory for the Lions. I think you could make the argument for Minnesota to win the game. Minnesota's been hot and cold this year. I'm not going to pick Minnesota to beat the Lions. The Lions are coming off of a 25-point victory against Denver, who was one of the hottest teams in the league as of late,
Yeah.
and Detroit just beat the shit out of them. I think for a division game on the road, Dan Campbell's going to have them locked in, and the Lions are going to win their 11th game this year, which it's like I think they said it'd been like 10 years or something since the Lions, or 15 years since the Lions won double-digit games. It feels
It was
odd.
the Caldwell era, right? Didn't he win 11 games one year?
I don't think so.
I thought Caldwell did because he got him in the playoffs the one year.
I thought that was a 9-win team. I'll look it up, but
Yeah, check it out,
um,
man. But yeah, so I'm taking Detroit, and it's yeah, like you said, it's a divisional game. It's in Minnesota. Minnesota's desperate for this win to keep their playoff hopes alive. I think Detroit, on the other hand, they're going to be fired up having gotten that dominant win over Denver, which I think is something that they needed after they were looking a little bit dicey in recent weeks. This kind of gives them their confidence back and gives them that momentum. I think that's going to carry into this week. They want to get that win. They want to lock in their playoff spot and keep their hopes alive for as many home playoff games as they can potentially get. And so I'm taking Detroit here, man.
yeah. So it was Caldwell. It was 2014. I was remembering the 2016
Okay,
Lions that went 9-7.
gotcha.
Either way, both teams lost in the wild card on the road. One was
Yeah.
26. One was close. 14 was close. But I mean, Lions are searching for their first playoff win since what was it, 91?
Yeah, 91, dude. That's a long fucking time.
Yeah, yeah, God. All right. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders at the New York Jets. In a game that's at MetLife Stadium. We talked about this when the Commanders played the Giants at MetLife. The Commanders don't play well in New York. I don't care if it's the Giants or the Jets. The Commanders have a mental block with with playing in New York. I'm sorry, New Jersey. I think it continues. My model has it as a 23-13 victory for the Jets. And honestly, since based on I didn't go much further past my model because of what you're going to tell us with your pick.
All right, sure. Yeah, so I mean, this is one where I'm taking Washington basically just because I believe that their offense has way more potential than the Jets' offense. And I think the Jets' defense is great, but their offense drags them down, and eventually teams get points on them. And so, really, that's the only reason I'm taking Washington in this game. Otherwise, man, I really wanted to be taking the Jets a lot this year, but without
Mhm.
Rodgers, man, the wheels fell off pretty damn quick. And I'm kind of bummed because you were talking about the rumors earlier with Tomlin. I've been hearing a lot about Robert Saleh being out in New York, and that would bum me out because, I think some of this has been largely out of his control, right?
Mhm.
So, but it's you got to get the results or they got to move on. Sometimes that's just the way it
Yeah,
works,
but
man.
it's when you're dealt a shit hand, it's kind of hard to have anything but shit in your hands.
Exactly, man. Because I mean, his defense is playing great, right? But he just can't get a quarterback. So,
Exactly. And when he does get a quarterback, he plays what, 3 snaps? Two official plays?
oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah,
Um,
so I'm taking the Commanders. Yeah.
all right. Then we have Seattle at Tennessee. Um, my model has Tennessee actually winning this game at 29-26. Seattle had an emotional Monday night victory over Philadelphia. I mean, it was they came back. They won the game. Won the game late with a late field goal. It was 33 seconds left, I believe. And then they had. Did you see the interception to end the game? Oh my God! What a phenomenal catch!
No, I heard about it,
It
but
was. I mean, like an
yeah.
amazing toe tap over. As his foot was about to hit another player, he got his foot down, or he got did the toe tap then the step instead of the opposite.
Okay.
Um, I viewed how it stood at great, but it was an emotional victory over Philadelphia. And Tennessee is the team that you can easily have a letdown against Tennessee if you overlook them.
Yeah, you
Tennessee
can.
can play good at times. Um, Levis isn't Jalen Hurts, but Levis has been having a decent hit and miss, but he's had a lot of huge games. Um, I think I'm going to go with my model on this with Tennessee winning the game. It's hesitant, and I'm really talking myself into it, but I'm going to stick with my model in the game.
Sure, I got you. Yeah, for me, I'm taking the Seahawks, man, and so I'm looking at it as Seattle is still in the playoff picture, and they had a big win last week. They need to keep winning if they want to keep those hopes alive. Tennessee is a beatable game for them as long as they keep their eye on the ball, stay focused, get it done. Talent-wise, Seattle. They're not the team that we were impressed with last year, right? They've had
Hmm.
some struggles this year. Geno Smith not quite as high in his accuracy, and they've had some injuries with a lot of people. Kenneth Walker banged up, Geno Smith even banged up, guys on the defense banged up. But Tennessee is, like you said, they're rolling with a rookie quarterback. They're having those rookie quarterback struggles. Um, it is a variable team, so you never know when they're going to bring it all together and they're going to lock in a win. But I just think the odds are in Seattle's favor, so I'm taking them here, man.
All right, and here's the thing. I'm going to say this because you said that, and I was like, "What?" I feel like Tennessee, and they're not. I thought Tennessee was still alive for the division, but obviously they're not. I was remember some. So I looked at the playoff standings, and then it's like Dallas technically is the number 2 seed right now. based on best win percentage in conference games because Dallas has played one more conference game than Detroit.
Gotcha.
They're in the conference. Dallas is 7-3, where Detroit is 6-3. So I mean, it's basically even there. Anyways, that just annoyed me. And then I was looking. It's like, wow, Seattle is not technically is outside looking in right now for the playoffs, along with Buffalo, Houston, and I mean, it's a surprise. It's a surprise that the Bears, the Giants, and the Packers are still and the Falcons are still can still mathematically make the playoffs. It's ridiculous to me. I digress. We just talked about Tennessee. All right, the next game. I want to just say straight up, I picked the opposite of you. My model had some weird fucking error in it, where it had it as like 142 to 120 victory for Jacksonville.
That ain't right. Yep.
Yeah, there's something in it. I didn't have time to actually figure out what the fuck was going on with my model for this particular game because everything else was
and I mean, Trevor Lawrence might
scores.
be out, right? So it could be a strange game, but I'm still sticking with Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
So
I straight up took the opposite as you. I couldn't figure out, didn't have time to figure out what was wrong with my model to actually model the game. So I'm on Tampa Bay.
all right, hey, easy enough, man. Yeah, for me, it's kind of like the heat map is a chunk on offense for Jacksonville, a chunk on defense for Tampa Bay. But all in all, it adds up to about a 3-point victory for Jacksonville. With Trevor Lawrence potentially being out, that could change it. But I'll probably still stick with the Jags here because, I don't know, just because, we're getting down to the end. No reason to go crazy. So, yeah, what's up next, man?
All right, next up is Arizona at Chicago.
Okay.
If this game was in Arizona, I would pick Arizona to win and override my model on it.
Yeah.
They won. Arizona's won 3 games. Two of the 3 were at home. One win on the road was at Pittsburgh. We talked Pittsburgh to death. So with it, I think Chicago has something to play for still, besides not being the worst team in the league this year, where that's all Arizona is playing for. I think what's his name, Gannon, has done a good job, and I think Arizona has been playing. They've been consistently getting better. Obviously, they got better from Dobbs to Murray, but even with Dobbs at quarterback, they were consistently getting better, and they were playing good football. They just couldn't put together a full game.
Yeah.
I still don't see full games that they're putting together. I think there's a lot of flaws in the game, but I mean, they're fairly devoid of talent outside of Kyler Murray. And I can't for a road victory, I'm going to stick with my model in Chicago at 21-19. If it was in Arizona in a controlled environment, I would probably override it.
Yeah, I see everything you're saying, and I tend to agree with it. I do think that, like you said, Chicago still got something to play for, and, Justin Fields has still got something to play for, right? Because he wants to make sure he's the guy again next year.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago defense has been great ever since they made that trade for Sweat. And so, yeah, I just think that, the pendulum is swung to the Chicago side. Arizona, yeah, they played admirably early on at home, and Kyler's kind of brought some life back into them. But even then, they're struggling to get the wins, and talent's a concern. And so, yeah, I take Chicago here all the way, man.
All right. Next up, we have Dallas at Miami. We've had this is kind of a weird game for me because we've talked about both sides of the coin to death over the last few weeks. How Miami can't beat a good team.
Yeah.
How Dallas can't play well on the road. Well, this is a road game for Dallas, but Dallas is in theory a good team.
It's a conundrum.
It is a conundrum. My model has it at 29-23 Dallas. I'm going to flip the pick that I sent you, and I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I think with all that's been talked about, how the Dolphins the flaws with Tua, and how the Dolphins can't win against a good team this year. I think Miami's going to come out with or without Tyreek Hill and come out blazing. I love Tua's response to questions this week about his struggles, where more or less said his response was more or less, as long as the Dolphins are winning, I don't care.
Yeah.
Which is the right answer. Like, it's not about my individual performance. Yeah. It's not about me. It's about the team and how the team's doing. If we win, then as long as we win, okay, I'll have struggles. If we're losing, basically, I'll look into myself first before I look outside.
Yeah, I like that, man.
Which is great. I like the Dolphins. I like McDaniel. McDaniel? No, that's
McDaniel, no S. Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, McDaniel. I like him as a coach. I think he's the right amount of quirk for an NFL coach, and I like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins can win this game and finally put to bed that, oh, well, they never beat a good team. And plus, Miami is still alive for the number 1 seed. Yeah, Dallas is too, but Miami has a greater chance of getting the number 1 seed, where Dallas already lost to San Francisco, so they have to have San Francisco lose 2 games, which I think is very unlikely.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, I'm going to take Dallas. You know, it's one of these things where my model it likes Dallas, and a lot of that is because we see how great they are at home. The hard part is, like, how do you write something into the model to, like, have their ratings be drastically reduced on the road. And so that's where, even though I'm taking Dallas, I could see it going the other way and going to Miami. But I'm going to stick with Dallas, and I'll just leave it at that, man.
All right. Then we have the hapless Patriots at the Broncos. I think this is going to be a super close game. My model, I'm going to be honest, my model it hasn't been adjusted positively for how Denver has been playing as of late.
Sure.
My model has it as a 13-12 victory for Denver. And again, it's one of those where, can I make an argument the opposite way? And I honestly don't see how New England scores 12 points.
Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi. What Zappi's been starting for, is it the last 3 games?
Something like that, yeah.
So let's talk about how many points. Let me see.
He had 1 good game, right?
The last 2 weeks, they've scored a combined 35 points in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 38, because they beat Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh. And then they scored 17 against the Chiefs, which was coming off of 3 straight weeks where they scored 3 weeks where they scored a combined 13 points.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Including losing 6-0 to the Chargers. I can't make an argument for anything good with the Patriots whatsoever. I think it's a close game, but I think my model actually has a higher point total than will be scored in the game, which is weird to say when it has 1 touchdown scored in the entire game and 6 field goals. It has 25 points, which I think is high. Because we've talked about it. New England's defense is playing good, so they're going to keep the Broncos down and off the board a little bit, but their offense can't score. Yeah. So there's there's the conundrum with New England. I'm on Denver.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we had a pretty close outcome here. You had it like 13-12, 1 point spread. My model's got it at 1.3 points for Denver. And so I think the same thing. I think the New England defense is going to keep them in check, but ultimately Denver's going to squeak a few points on the board, and New England's not going to be able to match it, man. It's that simple.
All right, then we have the Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. If my model has this as a 2-touchdown victory for the Chiefs, I think my model's a little bit down on the Raiders. I don't know how to adjust my model based off of 63 points against the Chargers. I think about 27 is about right for the Chiefs. So my decision on this was, do I think the Raiders can score 27 points more than 27 points on the Chiefs? And do I think it? Yes. Do I think it's likely? No. I think the Raiders. I'm actually going to override my model.
Okay.
On this, I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think the one thing about Vegas in Kansas City, I will go back to 2 years ago. Vegas went in to Kansas City, shocked the world, beat the Chiefs.
That's true. Yep.
Although I will say, for the bus driver of the Raiders, when the Raiders win this game, do not take a victory lap around the stadium. Just take them straight to the hotel room. I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think it's an unlikely outcome, but hey, I got to make some moves this week. So
Yeah, you got to start swinging it, man. I got you. Well, yeah, I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. My model's got the Chiefs winning by 15, which I think is fat when you look at how streaky they've been on offense.
mhm.
But I think that even if we tightened it up and we beefed it up on the Raiders side, I think it's just still hard to go against that big of a spread in my model. And so I got to take the Chiefs, man.
All right. Then we have a game we don't really need to talk about. The Giants at the Eagles. Giants have scored 189 points this year. The Eagles have scored like 600.
Yeah,
Where?
and near the top of the league in sacks and a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there
Yeah.
it'd be, it's not impossible for the Giants to win. Highly unlikely though,
It's
right?
highly unlikely. DeVito had some fucking issues this week. He had to hire a new marketing team because his agent, after the comeback victory on Monday night, apparently doubled the appearance fee for a pizzeria in New York. It was $10,000, and then they had a comeback victory at Monday night game a couple weeks ago, and his agent called him and said, "Well, now it's $20,000 for him to show
Oh,
up."
jeez.
Apparently,
Okay.
that's the story. I don't know. I have. He said he's not, he doesn't know, but he hired a marketing team. He says his agent's in charge of contracts. He doesn't do that. So it might have been his agent doing some rogue shit, but it bugs the fuck out of me. I think Philadelphia wins the game. I think Philadelphia is playing for a shot to for the number 1 seed, and I was wrong. No, it is 2 losses. But if there's a shot for the number 1 seed, it's a slim shot for Philadelphia, but there's still a shot because of the head-to-head, and San Francisco can choke. But I think Philadelphia has a better shot than Dallas at getting the number 1 seed. I don't think the Giants are good, so
I
I'm on
got you.
Philly.
Yeah, I'm taking Philly here. I think that they need to get back on track, and this is a home game for them. It's a divisional game, so it can always be a little bit risky, right? But talent-wise, they are just immensely more talented than the Giants, and they need to show it here to get back on track. So I'm taking Philly, man.
So I'm wondering, did they flex the Monday night game again this week? Because this is another fucking killer matchup for Monday night.
I have no idea, man.
Like I know last week they flexed it. Well, no, because we have it as the Monday night game. Like as a killer, this is a killer
Oh yeah, this
late in
could
the
be a Super
season
Bowl
matchup
preview, right?
for a Monday night game. This
Yeah.
is You're right. This is potentially the Super Bowl preview. These are the two teams that have the highest chance at making. I'm sorry, I'm going to say the game. It's Baltimore at San Francisco. Two teams that have a higher chance the highest chance of making the Super Bowl out of each division. I don't think, honestly, looking at the standings, this game doesn't mean much for either team uh, because of the fact that even with a loss, the it's a non-conference loss, so it would go to strength of schedule between Baltimore and Miami, or strength, and they would need two losses to go down to Kansas City level. So it'd be like strength of schedule versus Baltimore and Miami, and Baltimore has a higher strength of schedule. For San Francisco, they beat both Dallas and Philadelphia. Initially, the tiebreaker for the number one seed, if Dallas, Philadelphia, and San Francisco are tied, it's going to eliminate one of those two teams based on the divisional tiebreaker, and then they're going to go to head for San Francisco. So with a win or with a loss, both teams have the inside track at getting the number one seed and the conference. So it doesn't mean as much as people think.
Okay.
Um, I tried. I can make an argument either way on this game. I think I my model has it as a 20-17 victory for San Francisco. Um, I'm actually rooting for Baltimore in this game. The reason I'm rooting for Baltimore in this game is even though it's a non-conference game. Um, I think, I mean, it's that outside shot for the Lions to get the number one seed.
Oh
Just
yeah,
that
that'd be nice. Yeah.
outside shot. Even though San Francisco would have to lose their last two games of the right, or they would have to lose their last two games, even if they lost this game, because the Lions and San Francisco could not end up with a tied record because of the fact that San Francisco's only lost one conference game.
Yeah.
Um, and Dallas could be eliminated based on based next week if Detroit is able to beat Dallas, which then would be Philadelphia, which Philadelphia and Detroit will have basically the same in conference record if they're tied, so it would go to common games. No, they have there's a shot.
You're
That's
saying
all I'm gonna
there's a
say.
chance. Yeah.
There's a chance. I'm rooting for Baltimore in this game,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna
But
put my
but your
pick.
model's got the 49ers. Yeah.
I'm gonna put my pick with my rooting interest in the game and pick Baltimore.
Oh, you're switching. Okay, so you're picking
Yeah.
Baltimore. Okay. Let me update my file here. Yeah, so I'm taking the 49ers, and it's in San Francisco, one of the rare home teams that I am picking to win. But San Francisco is my top team in my power rankings, and my model has them winning by 5. If it is a Super Bowl preview potentially, it makes it interesting because people debate like, okay, are you gonna maybe lighten your playbook a little bit just so that you're not showing them things that they might see again later. I don't know how much that really happens in the NFL, but I think a guy like Shanahan is creative enough that whatever he shows, that there's always going to be
Hmm.
some wrinkles to it. And so, yeah, I'm comfortable taking the 49ers here, man.
All right, and then we're on to another terrible Thursday night matchup. I was surprised. a couple weeks ago, I talked about how the Thursday night matchup was fairly weak the rest of the season, and then I was surprised how much this week actually meant and how for each team. But next week we have a team that is probably doesn't really have a playoff chances versus a team that may have playoff chances. It's the Jets at the Browns.
Yeah, the Jets are out, man. I heard they're out.
I thought they
I,
were.
I I thought if they lost last week, they were out, and that was like
They are
one of
out.
the
They are out.
deciding factors for Rodgers, right?
Sorry, I
No, it's
I
cool.
looked at I looked at or remembered something wrong. No big deal. Um, Jets are
Yeah,
out. Cleveland is so the Jets are looking to play spoiler, but do the Jets
there
have
you
the
go.
talent? Do the Jets have the talent offensively to beat that Cleveland defense? Because I think it's you have two really good defenses.
Yep.
I think the Cleveland offense is slightly ahead of the Jets offense
Yeah.
and will beat the Jets defense, where I think the Jets offense will struggle to beat the Jets defense, especially with whoever the fuck's playing quarterback for the Jets by then, um, and what's going on. Probably give up 15, 20 sacks if it's Zach Wilson, um, and I'm going to go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm taking the Browns. Flacco, I know this last week he threw a couple picks and whatnot, but he's actually been kind of like a breath of fresh air for Cleveland, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they've needed just a little bit of stability at quarterback. Somebody that can be just a game manager and let their defense carry them. Flacco seems to be able to do that for them. And so I like that and I trust that more than anything we're getting out of the New York offense. So, yeah, I'm taking the Browns, bud.
All right, so that's our picks of the week. Do you have any closing thoughts on them?
I do not, but thanks for asking.
Okay, then we will move on to question of the week, which you've given me some time to think about, and but I will let you go first
Sure.
to state your position and defend it.
Yeah, well, all right. So it's, my question is Sam Laporta already better than TJ Hawkinson? And I know that that's kind of like maybe, I could come up with a better question. I definitely could have done more research because I don't even have any of their stats or anything. But, what I'm going to say is that, right here, right now, this season, I think Sam Laporta is a special talent as a rookie. But at the same time, I think that since Hawkinson was traded to Minnesota, he has entered that, not the Kelsey tier because Kelsey's kind of on his own in the tiers of tight ends, but I think Hawkinson's made a case to be in that next tier down. The thing is, I think Laporta already as a rookie is scraping into that tier as well. But Hawkinson today, I think, is a couple notches above him. I do believe long term, the ceiling for Laporta is going to be way higher than Hawkinson's. I think that we're seeing peak Hawkinson. We never got this good of Hawkinson in Detroit, right? And so, the phenomenal play of Laporta really has me excited for the future. And yeah, I just, didn't know a cooler, more creative way of wording that question. I just thought it was good to have an open dialogue about the two. Both former Iowa players, Hawkinson, obviously, former Lion, top 10 pick. And then you got, Laporta, second round pick. So, yeah, what do you think, man?
I'm hesitant to say yes. When you look at the same point in their careers, when Hawkinson was a rookie versus when this year with Laporta being a rookie, the team makeup was completely different. In fact, his rookie season, Hawkinson only played in 12 games and had 367 yards on 59 targets, 32 receptions, 59 targets on two TDs. But that team in 2019, if you look at the makeup of the team, it was a pass first offense. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember something as I hadn't gotten there
Sure.
to. So when you look at they had it was a very heavily pass first offense. At wide receiver, like, I mean, they had nobody. Where the Lions currently have, okay, they had Kenny Galladay, who had a decent year in 2019, but I think that was like one of his only good years.
Yeah.
2019 he had 1,100 yards. 2018 he had 1,000 yards or 1,200 yards in 2019, and then that was it for Galladay. Where the but Galladay at that time was playing like a true number one, where Amon-Ra St. Brown is not playing like a true number one in there. So that's going to leave to more passes going to the tight end, which Laporta is taking advantage of. I think Hawkinson had his breakout receiving year with the Lions in 2020. It was his second season. He had 723 yards on 101 targets, where currently Laporta has 758 yards on 3 less targets and 71 receptions versus that 100 or 723 was on 67 receptions. So I think comparatively Laporta is ahead of where Hawkinson was this point in his career. He's about a year ahead of Hawkinson. But do I think he's better? And I'm trying to decide if I think he's better. I think Hawkinson this year benefited from the Justin Jefferson injury. I think of everybody on Minnesota.
Yeah, put a lot of pressure on Addison and him to make up for the slack, right?
Yeah, he's been targeted 123 times this year in Minnesota. So he's
a lot for a tight end.
That's exactly. That's a whole shitload for a fucking tight end. He's only averaging 9.9 yards per reception, where Laporta is averaging 10.7 yards per reception.
Okay.
I think touchdowns wise, Hawkinson has 5 this year, where Laporta has 9. That just means Laporta's probably getting more targets and close in the red zone or close to the end zone, where he has a chance for
but he's making them count too.
But he's making them count. Long wide, like, reception, or longest reception this year, Laporta's at 48, where Hawkinson is at 29. So all this is saying that I think Laporta is better currently than when Hawkinson was at this point in his career.
Sure.
And I think that trajectory for Laporta amounts to a better career for Hawkinson. I think talent-wise, they are similar. They are just being used differently.
Gotcha.
I hate to ride the fence on it, but
well, no, I thought it was, worth dissecting, right? Because
it's hard
of course,
to say.
As soon as we get rid of Hawkinson, the true potential starts to show. But we hit the jackpot with Laporta, and so I think for the Lions, the jackpots, it's like a two-way thing, right? Because we don't have to pay Laporta like we're paying Minnesota's paying Hawkinson. But we're getting damn near equivalent production, depending on what way you look at it. I value the touchdowns, but, the yards are good and everything too, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, the yards are great, are good, but the touchdowns, the long, like, if I remember correctly, it wasn't the long for Laporta. He did a lot of the work on it, where it was a shorter pass and he got yards after catch, which is impressive for a tight end. And I think Laporta is harder to tackle than Hawkinson. I think I'm hesitant to say that Laporta is better than Hawkinson because of the simple fact that I don't want to say he is, and then he all of a sudden has
Yeah, don't
like
jinx it. Don't jinx
he
it.
regresses
Yeah.
to fucking I don't know
We're going jinx free here, James. So
yeah
I'm good with
yeah
that. I'm good with that answer.
I'm just
Yeah.
not gonna go there.
Okay. Well, yeah. Hey, that's what I had for tonight. Thought it was worth digging into, and that's pretty much all I got, man. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, that's pretty much all I had.
All right. Well, hey, for anybody who's still watching, we hope you liked the show. If you did, show us some love. Hit that thumbs up or the like or whatever platform you're on. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Helps us out. We do this every week. More content coming right at you, man. So, yeah. James, like always, man, it was a good time. I'll catch you later, bud.
All right, sounds good.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.